All right, everybody, welcome back. Today, we are going to be taking a deep dive into the December 2024 U.S. jobs report.
Yeah.
We got the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, and we also have a statement from Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su.
Right.
And looking at the numbers, let me tell you, they really do tell a story.
Yes, he did.
So, 256,000 new jobs added, unemployment's holding steady at 4.1%, and wages are up.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really, really going on beneath the surface?
Exactly.
That's what we're here to find out today.
Yeah, we'll be going beyond just the headlines,
Yeah.
to try to uncover some of those maybe surprising trends
Right.
and figure out what it all means for you as we kick off 2025.
Exactly.
Big year.
Yeah, so first up is the household survey.
Hmm.
Now, this gives us that unemployment rate. It gives us the labor force participation data. And honestly, I was a little bit surprised to see the unemployment rate holding steady for 7 months straight.
Yeah.
So is this a sign of stability or is something else going on?
Well, that's a really good question. I think economists are a bit divided on that. On the one hand, that steady 4.1 to 4.2% unemployment rate for the past 7 months, that could signal a really strong, labor market. But on the other hand, it could also mean that some people are just, leaving the workforce entirely.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the labor force participation rate comes in.
Right, and that stayed unchanged at 62.5%. So is it all just smooth sailing? Or is there a hidden story here?
Well, labor force participation, this is really a key indicator of the overall economic health, right?
Yeah.
Tells us, what percentage of the working age population is either employed or actively looking for work. So we really have to ask ourselves, are people dropping out because, maybe they're discouraged?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just struggling to find jobs that match their skills?
Yeah.
If so, that's a red flag. And actually, this month's report shows that while those permanent job losses are down,
Okay.
that long-term unemployment, it's actually up compared to a year ago.
So maybe those new jobs aren't filling the gaps left by jobs lost in those struggling industries.
Right.
So are we seeing a mismatch between the skills that the employers actually need and what the workers have?
It's a definite possibility. This could be a sign of, we hear this all the time, a skills gap, right?
Right.
That's contributing to that long-term unemployment. But it's also important to remember that, the economy is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Industries rise, industries fall. And that requires workers to adapt, to change with those times, to learn new things.
Right.
So this could also signal a larger structural shift in the labor market as well.
That's a great point. Now that we've kind of gotten a sense of the overall workforce, let's zoom in a little bit on the employers and what's happening with job creation. So the establishment survey, this gives us those industry-specific numbers. What stood out to you when you looked at those numbers?
Well, one thing that immediately caught my eye was that healthcare. They're booming. They added a whopping 46,000 jobs in December.
Wow.
And that's not a fluke. The sector has averaged 57,000 new jobs per month throughout all of 2024.
Wow. Healthcare really does seem to be on fire. So what's fueling all of this massive expansion?
Well, it's a lot of things, actually. It's a confluence of factors. An aging population, first of all, means there's just a growing demand for healthcare services.
Right.
People are living longer.
Yeah.
They need more care. Advancements in medical technology are also creating new jobs and specializations,
Oh, interesting.
things we didn't even have 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
And then, plus there's an increased focus now on, preventative care
Yeah.
and wellness.
Yeah.
And that further drives demand.
That makes a lot of sense. So are there other sectors that are seeing, significant job growth?
Well, government jobs saw a nice little bump this month, adding 33,000 positions in December. And that's noteworthy because, government employment doesn't always keep pace, during a strong economy.
Yeah, sometimes government hiring lags behind the private sector.
Exactly.
So what kinds of government jobs are we talking about here?
Well, the report shows this continued upward trend in state government employment,
Yeah.
with 10,000 jobs added just this month.
Okay.
So this suggests that, state and local governments, they're really ramping up hiring, possibly for services like, education, infrastructure,
Yeah.
public safety.
Interesting. Now let's talk a little bit about retail. It's been a bit of a roller coaster year.
Yeah.
But it ended with a bang,
It did.
adding 43,000 new jobs in December. What do you make of that?
Well, it's likely connected to the holiday shopping season. I
Yeah.
mean, that usually boosts retail employment. However, it's important to note that, overall, retail employment remained relatively flat in 2024.
Right.
So this could point to some underlying weakness in the sector,
Mhm.
perhaps, due to the continued growth of, e-commerce
Yeah.
or shifts in just general consumer spending habits.
Right. So the holidays gave retail a temporary boost, but the long-term outlook is maybe a little bit murky.
Maybe a little, yeah.
Okay, so now on to the all-important question
The big one.
that everybody wants to know.
Yeah,
Wages.
right.
Everyone wants to know if their paychecks are keeping pace with the cost of living. What are we seeing here?
Well, absolutely. And the report shows that the average hourly earnings for all private sector workers increased by 10 cents in December.
Okay.
So that brings the year-over-year growth to 3.9%,
Mm.
which sounds pretty good, right, on the surface.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
You know it. We can't forget about inflation. Those 10 cents, they might not feel like much, when you're at the grocery store or
Right.
when you're paying your bills.
Exactly.
So real wages, and this is what we have to look at, real wages, which account for inflation, that gives us a much truer picture of our purchasing power.
Right.
And that's what really matters to your wallet
Right.
at the end of the day.
Exactly. So while wages are going up, that inflation is likely eating away at those gains for a lot of people. Are there any other nuances to the wage data that we should consider?
Definitely. The report, it distinguishes between, average earnings for all workers,
Hmm.
right, versus those for production and non-supervisory workers.
Okay.
And this latter group, they only saw a minimal gain of 6 cents per hour in December.
So it seems like everyone's talking about this, wage growth, but the reality might be quite different for folks in certain types of jobs.
Exactly. And it's interesting to note, how Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su, she chose to emphasize wage growth in her statement on the jobs report.
Okay.
So, there appears to be a bit of a political angle there,
Right.
highlighting the administration's efforts to boost worker pay.
Makes sense. Politicians love to, tout positive economic news,
Of course.
especially during an election year.
Right.
All right. So we've covered unemployment. We've covered job creation. We talked about wages. What else should we unpack from this report?
Well, we can't forget about the fine print.
Yeah.
The BLS adjusted the job gains for October and November.
Okay.
So it's crucial to remember that, economic data is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
In fact, the report even mentions these upcoming changes
Hmm.
to the jobs report data in early 2025. They're going to implement, new population controls, new seasonal adjustments, and all of that might really impact how we compare the data over time.
That's a great point. It's a good reminder to really stay informed and really understand the methodology behind all these reports.
Absolutely.
So before we move on to what this means for our listener, any final thoughts on these surprising trends in the December jobs report?
Well, I think what strikes me most is just the resilience
Yeah.
of the U.S. economy. Despite global uncertainties, ongoing challenges like, we've talked about inflation,
Yeah.
the labor market is really staying strong
Yeah.
as we head into 2025.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean it's all, smooth sailing.
Absolutely. While there's a lot of good news for job seekers and anyone worried about the economy, it's so crucial to really look beyond those headlines, and understand the nuances. Sometimes I think the most revealing insights are hidden in those seemingly minor data points. It's like we're piecing together this big puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we're here to help you do.
You got it.
Yeah.
We want to help you see the big picture, make sense of it all.
Exactly. Okay, so let's do just that. What are some of the key takeaways from this jobs report that our listeners should really pay attention to?
Well, I think first and foremost, this December report, it really paints a picture of a strong, a resilient labor market as we hit into 2025.
Okay.
There's plenty of opportunity out there for those who are seeking, employment.
So that's fantastic news
Yeah.
as we head into a new year. But you mentioned earlier that there are still some, challenges beneath the surface. What should our listener be aware of?
Right. While the overall picture is positive, we really can't ignore those pockets of concern.
Yeah.
Long-term unemployment, it remains elevated, which could suggest that mismatch
Right.
between the skills that workers have and the jobs that are available. So this really highlights the importance of continuous learning and upskilling, especially, as technology and automation continue to reshape the workplace. This is the future.
Right.
Yeah,
So if you're thinking about a career change or maybe you just want to stay ahead of the curve, investing in your skills, it's more important now than ever, right?
absolutely.
But even though wages are rising, you also mentioned that inflation is eroding a lot of those gains for a lot of workers.
Right.
So what's the best way to think about this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of it this way. Imagine you get a raise, right? But then the price of everything you buy, from groceries to gas, goes up even more.
Right.
That's what's happening to a lot of people right now. So it's essential to be really strategic about your career choices
Yeah.
and to negotiate for the best possible compensation. Don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth. Knowing your value in the job market is really, really key these days.
Great advice. Any other nuggets of wisdom you want to share with our listener?
Well, I think it's just really important to remember that the economy is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
The December jobs report it's really just a snapshot in time.
Right.
So it's crucial to, stay informed
Yeah.
about economic trends, both locally and globally,
Yeah.
to really make informed decisions about, your career, your finances, your future.
Yeah, we definitely live in a dynamic world, and being adaptable is key to thriving in any economic climate. But let's be honest, sometimes it's hard to predict what's coming next. Any final thoughts on what the future holds for the job market?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? This December report, it suggests, continued strength, resilience as we head into 2025.
Yeah.
But, we can't ignore that potential for unexpected events that could kind of throw things off course.
Yeah.
Think about global conflicts, advancements in artificial intelligence, sudden shifts in government policies, any of these things
You're right.
could have a major impact on the labor market.
True, there are always factors outside of our control that can really shake things up, but even with all of those uncertainties, there are things that we can do,
Yeah.
to prepare ourselves, right?
Absolutely. I think, think critically about the future of work
Mm.
and your place in it. What skills will be in high demand?
Yeah.
How can you leverage, technology to your advantage?
Yeah.
And most importantly, how can you stay agile and adaptable in a landscape that's always changing?
Right. So it's not just about finding a job. It's about building this sustainable career, something that can weather any storm, right? This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. We've uncovered some surprising trends, I think. We've unpacked the complexities of the data and hopefully equipped our listener with some valuable insights. Any final parting thoughts before we wrap things up?
Well, I think, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more you understand about the economy, about the job market, about the forces that are shaping the future of work, the better prepared you'll be to make informed decisions
Yeah.
and to navigate, whatever challenges come your way.
Well said. And that's exactly what the deep dive is all about, empowering you with knowledge, with a deeper understanding of the world around us. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the December 2024 jobs report. We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive. Until then, stay curious.
It's amazing how those seemingly like dry statistics can really come to life when you start like digging into them.
It's true. Yeah, I always find it fascinating how those numbers can reveal so much about the state of our world,
Yeah, and I think we've done a good job of showing our listener what these numbers really mean.
Yeah.
But before we sign off, I have one more thought.
We've talked about the economy's resilience.
Right.
And those potential disruptions, but what about the human element of all of this?
Yeah, that's an essential point.
Yeah.
We can't forget that behind every single data point, there's a real person
Right.
with hopes and dreams and worries
Right.
about the future.
Yeah.
The job market isn't just some abstract concept.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of people's lives.
Yeah.
Their livelihoods depend on it.
Exactly. And so as we head into 2025, the big question is how can we create an economy that works for everyone?
Yeah.
How can we make sure that all Americans have access to those good paying jobs,
Yeah.
the skills that they need to thrive, and just that sense of security about their future.
Well, that's a huge challenge, and
Yeah.
there's no easy answer.
Right.
It requires a really multifaceted approach, I think. Investing in education and training,
Hmm.
supporting entrepreneurship, innovation, and creating policies that promote fairness
Right.
and opportunity for absolutely everyone. These are all crucial pieces of
Yeah.
the puzzle.
It's a tall order, but I'm optimistic. I
Yeah.
think we've overcome challenges before,
Yeah,
and I believe we can do it again.
absolutely.
But it requires all of us, policymakers, businesses, educators, and individuals,
Right.
working together
Working together.
to create a future where everyone has that chance to succeed.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's a shared responsibility,
Yeah.
and our collective success depends on it.
Well said. Well said. And on that note of hope and collective action, we will wrap up this deep dive into the December 2024 jobs report. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to exploring more fascinating topics